My name is Barney Rosenberg. By profession, I'm a trial lawyer. And for the last 15 years, I was the global ethics officer for an aerospace company headquartered in England. Sinem, you want to tell them a little about you? Unmute.
Yes, I did. I was trying to do that. My name is Sinem, and I am PhD candidate at Georgia State University in Atlanta. And as Barney said, I joined the competition in 2011, which was 9 years ago, long time. And yeah, now I am also an instructor at Georgia State University teaching 2 classes. And I look forward to your presentations. And I've been in your shoes, so you can just maybe hopefully this helps you to be a little bit less nervous because you know, one of the judges has been in your shoes. So yeah, best of luck. I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
All right, Mark, whenever you're ready.
Is the presentation visible to everyone? Okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is Mark IBESCC, and I, along with my colleagues Katie Tanizawa, Devon Shangothia, and Sarah Wigg, represent the team of Harris Consulting. We have been retained by you all, the HB Board of Directors, to identify the various financial, legal, and ethical issues within HP's current practices and provide solutions to those issues. Today's presentation has been compiled through the lens of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 12, which aims to ensure sustainable consumption and production and manufacturing patterns throughout the world. And today's presentation, here's an outline of today's presentation. First, we will begin with a background of HP's revenue and the 2 divisions it's primarily composed of. Next, we will present the various dilemmas associated with the production of HP products, specifically in cartridges. Then we will present solutions which will address all 3 aspects of the dilemma and also provide the logistical implementation necessary to achieve our goals. And lastly, we will discuss the benefits of such implementation. So now I will pass it on to my colleague Devon, who will talk to you more about the issues facing HP's current practices.
Right. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate that introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are all really happy to be here, and we hope you all are doing well. So as Mark mentioned, I'm going to give you the overview of the problems with HP's current practices, and this is going to be divided into 3 sections. First, the financial issues, then the legal issues, and then lastly, the ethical issues. So starting with the financial issues, HP's finances it's generated by 2 different segments. First, the personal system segment, and then the printing segment. Now, in the personal system segment, they include the sale of notebooks, desktops, workstations, while the printing segment includes the sale of printing supplies and commercial and consumer hardware. Now, as you can see in this graph, although HP's revenue was increasing from 2016 to 2018 at an average growth rate of 10.1%, that growth rate declined in 2019. Now, and it's projected to further decline in the future. What's interesting is that Forbes has forecasted a huge decline in the growth of the printing segment that formed 36% of HP's printing revenue. And now, as you can see, the growth is supposed to decline from $13.6 billion in 2018 to only $12.2 billion in 2020. And because of the impact of COVID-19 now, this growth decline will only be more severe. So one of the main reasons for this decline in HP's printing revenue is because of the changing consumer perspective. Consumers around the world are becoming more and more aware of their carbon footprint, and they're opting to go green whenever possible. Now, as evident from this graph, consumers are even willing to take that extra step and pay a premium on products to be more eco-friendly, especially when it comes to packaging. And now this is a big problem because of HP's plastic-based printing systems and printing cartridges. Now, as you can see, As I said, with consumers becoming more aware of their actions, about how their actions will impact the future tomorrow, for HP to continue their harmful plastic production patterns, it's going to be detrimental to both the environment and their brand. Now, one of the stats is plastic shares of the global oil consumption is supposed to increase from 6% in 2014 to 20% in 2050. This will only increase the global warming effect that plastic has and increase the risk of oil spills. Now, thus, consumers will choose to seek out alternative companies, and this will further reduce HP's revenue. Now, moving on to the legal issues, HP's business model is based on selling their printers at or below production cost, and then hugely marking up their price for their proprietary ink cartridges. Now, what's interesting again here is that most of HP's printers, they contain an intelligent ink chip. Now, that's supposed to report to the printer when the cartridge is out of ink or it's out of date. Now, however, a study found out that these ink chips actually report wrongly that a cartridge is empty when there's approximately 20% of the ink remaining, with the actual figures ranging from 6% to 64%. So this deceptive market strategy from HP, it goes against several consumer protection laws, and it was viewed negatively by a lot of consumers, forcing them to seek out third-party solutions and thus further decreasing HP's revenue. Now, to the second legal issue is HP's reliance on Asian sweatshop factories. Now, these factories employ students as young as 16 to work as interns in their production lines. The workforce in most of these factories is formed by 60% interns, which violates labor laws that stipulate that only 10% of the factory's workforce can be interns. Moreover, these students are forced to work long shifts for months without taking breaks. In fact, a student even daring to take a single day off can be docked wages for 2 days. And on average, these students work 81 hours a week, which exceeds China's legal overtime limit by 318%. So moving on to the ethical issues on a somewhat connected vein is that these sweatshop factories often have ties with the schools and universities these students attend. So they coerce these students to work for them by threatening to cut their college funding and even not allowing them to graduate. In fact, this behavior has led to several suicides and reports of employee mismanagement against these factories. However, the biggest ethical impact that HP's current issues have is the environmental impact of the printing ink. Now, throughout the year, millions of cartridges are thrown away. And as I indicated earlier, with the ink chips, a lot of these cartridges are non-empty. So now, as you saw, the ink in these cartridges was made out of several ingredients. However, a lot of these ingredients are actually really harmful. Now, for example, 95% of the ink inside these cartridges is formed from deionized water. Now, deionized water is just water that has been treated to remove all ions. But this process is very energy intensive. And just by looking at the amount of ink that's wasted, we can just gauge at the amount of energy that is wasted in this ink production. Moreover, the dyes that give the ink color are proven to cause severe allergic reactions. And the volatile organic compounds and the heavy metals in the other components, when coming in contact with the soil and the water, can lead to a lot of pollution. Now, lastly, the cartridges themselves, being made out of plastic, emit approximately 4.8 kgs of greenhouse gases for each cartridge created. And it even takes approximately 1,000 years to decompose into the landfill site. Thus, we can see that HP's ink and their cartridges have a severe environmental impact. And this is a big ethical issue. So now, that was a summary of all the issues with HP's current practices. I would now like to pass on the baton to my colleague, Sarah, who's gonna come up and tell you about our first solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Devansh. So to overcome some of the problems mentioned by Devansh, we would like for HP to turn to sustainable production. And the way we would want HP to turn to sustainable production would be through implementing two things. The first would be vegetable-based ink, and the second is refillable bioplastic cartridges. Vegetable-based ink is actually renewable ink, which is made out of vegetable oil, which could be soybean or corn. So what HP is currently doing is that they sell petroleum-based ink. However, they do realize the harmful effects of petroleum-based ink and have invested $200 million last year on the innovation of water-based ink. So the problems of the current ink is that the petroleum-based ink actually do release a high level of volatile organic compounds, which do lead to air pollution and global warming. There is also a high risk while transporting and sourcing the ingredients which are in this ink. And most importantly, petroleum is a non-renewable source, and therefore we need a substitute, which we say is vegetable ink. Vegetable ink promotes sustainable ink use. As actually, it takes less amount of ink to print the same amount of paper when we compare it to petroleum-based ink. This is because soy-based ink actually spreads approximately 20% further than petroleum-based ink. This does reduce the amount of ink used and also the printer cleanup cost. Soy-based ink actually also does produce more vibrant colors, as soy oil is much better than petroleum-based ink. Vegetable-based ink also helps save paper, as once vegetable-based ink is printed, it slowly starts fading away, and after a while, the paper can be easily reused or recycled. This is ideal for industries which use single-use printing, like credit cards, shopping receipts, etc. Therefore, we provide a solution for HP to include the option of vegetable-based ink while consumers are printing, specifically in offices, colleges, and households, where they are doing the printing just for one-time use and will discard the paper in the future. This solution is highly recommended to industries like credit cards. Our second solution is refillable bioplastic cartridges, which are made out of biomass sources like corn, recycled food waste, etc. So what HP currently is doing is that they are selling plastic cartridges. However, they do realize their need to recycle this plastic and therefore have manufactured 4.2 billion cartridges from recycled waste and claim that more than 80% of these cartridges are made out of 45 to 70% recycled content. However, this does imply that over 3 billion plastic from over 3 billion cartridges is actually unaccounted for. And this plastic is getting disposed of into oceans and landfills, which leads to water and air pollution. Therefore, we want HP to turn to this manufacturing process, which first starts with a plant which could be corn, which is refined into raw materials and then sent to the bioplastic producer. The bioplastic producer turns it into bioplastic pellets, which are then converted into the plastic ink cartridges, which HP can sell to consumers as a sustainability marketed product. The main advantage of these cartridges is that it actually gets decomposed in 80 days with just using sunlight, heat, and oxygen, whereas the cartridges that HP is currently producing takes over quadruple the amount to decompose. Therefore, we tell HP to go to this solution to start using bioplastic like corn and recycled food waste. And we also want HP to start using refillable ink cartridges, as yes, recycling does take a lot of money and energy. And therefore, we want HP to start using a discount on buying refillable ink cartridges. That is it. So I would like to turn it over to Mark now, who will present another marketing solution for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So in this part of the presentation, we want to address how to educate consumers about the changes, as well as how to implement these changes from a business perspective. And so first, we want to reiterate the consumer interest in pursuing more sustainable and eco-friendly buying power. And as you can see, 90% of millennials and 80% of eco-friendly consumers are willing to pay a premium for sustainable brands. Furthermore, the data and research suggests that sustainably marketed brands grow at a significant rate, at a greater significant rate than conventionally marketed products. Our competitors in the industry have recognized this trend and acted on it. Canon has created an Eco Inc. marketing plan which promotes the sustainable nature of their ink, and Epson has addressed their hardware by creating tank-based systems which can hold up to 4,500 pages worth of ink at a time. So our suggestion to HB is to rebrand their current subscription service, Instinct Ink, to have more of a sustainability focus. We have colored the HP logo from blue to green, as you can see. This could also be implemented across HP's product line to indicate that a product was sustainably and ethically produced. And we have also included a leaf to kind of allude to that ecological aspect. And from a marketing perspective, it sort of looks like a drop of ink. And so the features we'd be continuing from the current program is the monthly plan schedule, the anytime cancellation, and that anyone who purchases an HP printer would receive an introductory offer to the service. And we would make 3 main improvements. First, the current system measures consumer usage by the amount of the number of pages printed rather than the amount of ink used. So to be more fair to both the environment and to consumers, we would start measuring by the level of ink within the cartridge rather than pages printed. Furthermore, we would optimize the supply chain management system. Currently, it can take up to 10 days for an HP consumer to receive their new supply of ink. This causes them to not only desubscribe from the service, but to go to the store, purchase the cartridge themselves, and HP loses control of the cycle of that specific cartridge. And lastly, we would implement a more robust cartridge return process where the consumer would receive a package with a pre-paid shipping label. They would simply remove the new supply of ink, return the used cartridges to HP, and that will help HP kind of maintain a little bit more control of their worldwide inventory of ink cartridges. And so beyond the subscription service, we want to increase the overall user experience. This would include an enhanced HP Smart app, which is their way of connecting to consumers on mobile devices. We would also work with kind of the AI aspect of the technology to try to be able to more accurately predict when a consumer will need the ink. This will help us reduce our shipping times in terms of supply chain management. And lastly, from a PR perspective, we would add a sustainability section to the app where a consumer could see the amount of oil or trees that their usage is saving, and also feature a section called Sustainable Stories where HP could chronicleize the efforts they're taking to become a more sustainable and ethical company. And we would also be interested in joining with our retail partners, as we realize not every HP consumer will want to subscribe to the service. So we would work with them to create a specific section of the store dedicated solely to sustainably and ethically produced products. And it would be our hope that HP would have a large presence in this section. Furthermore, we would reach out to large companies with an at-home work base and work with them to provide each of their at-home employees with a consumer-grade printer and a subscription to the HP Instant Ink service. This could account from anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000 hardware sales and subscription assignments, and this is even before the COVID-19 crisis. And so the cost of implementation is listed below. The bioplastic cartridge production is a universal change. However, the manufacturing process itself does not change that much. It would still be a plastic pellet-based system. So we would only have to reach out to various contractors to source the bioplastic if HP does not want to make it themselves. The vegetable ink will be a little bit more costly because there's some more chemical research involved to kind of perfect the formula of the ink, and so that will cost around $10 million. And the product rebranding would cost $3 million specific to the ink service, and overall eco rebranding would cost closer to $10 million. And similarly, the vegetable-based inks, as it's not a universal solution, would only take 8 to 12 months to implement, whereas the bioplastic consumer cartridges would take about a year. And we would hope to relaunch our rebranded service in September 21 which would coincide with the back to college and kind of the restart of the work year for many individuals. And so now I will pass it on to my colleagues, Katie, who will talk more about the benefits of this implementation.
Thank you very much, Mark. Finally, I would like to talk about the benefits of the implementation. In the section of the benefits of the implementation, we would like to focus on the financial benefits, legal benefits, and the ethical benefits of the solution. First, in terms of the financial benefits of the solution, we first expect to have a 25% reduction in the manufacturing costs at HP, which are due to the fewer production of the plastic cartridges, less amounts of ink needed to print the same amounts of paper, and fewer cleanup, volatile organic compounds, and agricultural costs associated with the manufacturing process. Second, we also predict to have a significant increase at HP's printing supplies revenue. In the fiscal year of 2022, we expect to have HP's total printing supplies revenue of about $15.86 billion. This is up by approximately $3.86 billion from the fiscal year 2020, which was forecasted by Forbes. This is not only due to the increase in the reduction in their manufacturing costs, but also due to the increase in demand, which we predict to be about 5% up. And these are due to the high quality of their products, lower price charts for the consumers, and HP's company image as a whole being more environmentally friendly. In terms of legal benefits of the solution, first, our solution will protect the students' labor rights from overworking. Secondly, our solution will also help HP comply with the environmental regulations aimed to clean up the air and the water, such as the national emission standards for the printing and publishing industry. Next, in terms of ethical benefits of the solution, we first predict to have a significant reduction in some toxic emissions generated to the environment. The traditional petroleum-based inks have the volatile organic compounds level of about 25%, whereas the vegetable-based inks have less than 1%. Second, our solution will also make recycling an easier job for the consumers because vegetable-based inks are easily removed from paper compared to the traditional oil-based inks. Third, we will also predict to have a significant reduction in plastic waste. As my colleague Devansh discussed earlier in the presentation, currently there are about 300 million plastic cartridges disposed of annually. These will take about 450 to 1,000 years to completely decompose. However, with our refillable bioplastic cartridges, these plastic waste will be close to none. Finally, we will also help HP provide better working conditions for the workers. Due to the less exposure to toxic chemicals and increase in their revenue, we could predict to have an increase in their capital investment in the manufacturing equipment. This will allow HP to have an increase in their company morale, which leads to HP providing better working conditions for the workers and the student interns at their HP suppliers. Thank you. I finally would like to pass to Devansh, my colleague Devansh, who will summarize our findings and our solutions.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Katie. So just to summarize, currently HP's printing segment is not sustainable, and with our solution of the vegetable ink and the biodegradable plastic, we will, as HTG 12 suggests, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Moreover, I know that we've covered a lot of stuff today, but what gets me most excited about this is that we can help HP achieve HTG 12 while our marketing solutions can also ensure that HP become more profitable. And that's all from us today. Thank you so much for having us. And yeah, we'd now like to open up the floor to questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, team. Let me start off by asking you if this is the right time for us to begin a major initiative like this. The world is shutting down, Agricultural products are going to be harder and harder to get. Should we just put this off for a couple of years?
I think that's a great question. And I think there are two parts to that. I think this is, I think, yeah, as I said, there are two parts to that. So I think this is a good time in one sense that a lot of people are going to be home right now. So there are, instead of, let's say, like, having one printer in, among like 10 or 15 people in an office, there are going to be like, let's say, multiple printers in different people's houses that are going to be used. I know that people are also preferring digital signatures and whatnot, but I think there are still certain things that people would want, like a signature on a hard copy, let's say. So I think this would be a good time to implement the solutions because, as we spoke about earlier, although this is a good time for the environment because people aren't going outside, once the lockdown does, stop and people start going outside again, the bad impact on the environment will just be multiplied by like 100 times because everything will be like, at stop and then everyone will go outside again. So with our good sustainable solution, we'll be ensuring that while people are in lockdown, the environment is in good hands. Yeah, so I guess that would be an answer.
Sinem?
I actually was going to have, again, a COVID-19 related question, and you already asked that, but I can just continue by tweaking it a little bit. I mean, not too much because I literally had the same question, is that this is a great, solution and, very beneficial, but my concern was was similar because if we make this investment now, and you explained with numbers very well that it will it will in the long term, it will be very beneficial from business, ethical, and all legal sides. But we don't know. Currently, it's very unpredictable when this, as to when this lockdown will end, will stop. So if we make this investment now, and people, as you said, are really using digital signatures, and most people are at home, offices are closed, like everything is going online and digital. So if we can't, get back our investment back soon, this might be, hurting the bottom line. And how would you, ensure that doesn't happen, or what would be your solution to that?
Well, I think one of the important aspects is, given the current situation of the world, is that we may see such a solution, or even HP explaining to consumers that this is their plan for maybe the next 5 years, as an invitation to the HP brand, and for HP to become kind of the eco-friendly leader in the printing industry. And so while these specific changes may not be implemented in the next 1 or 2 years, and the bottom line might hurt for the next 1 or 2 years, I think in the long term, we can attract a large consumer base, especially everyone's becoming more aware of the effect of pollution as people are not moving across the country. And so I think when people come out of lockdowns, they'll be looking for those eco-friendly solutions. And if HP maintains its current practices, consumers will just not be incentivized to buy, and that in turn will hurt the bottom line.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, great answer is that specifically in this time, we could target certain industries because you are, as you said, you're worried about your current revenues, right? Like we have to look at the present and future at the same time because we have to answer to the stockholders, right? Like we all love money and we all want to make HP profitable while doing good to the environment, right? So to help answer that, we could target certain industries specifically. For example, we still know that Amazon is doing thousands and millions of deliveries every day. And in each of those deliveries on the top, there is a receipt that's printed out and with that uses ink. So if we can market our ink to Amazon, and especially the biodegradable soy-based ink that can, that can be reused and the paper can be recycled easily, that will be a big win. And, if HP is maintaining their green footprint and we're being sustainable, Amazon will be a lot more likely to partner with us.
Well, as a trial lawyer, I'm used to presenting evidence to the court and to the jury. what's going to happen to my evidence if the ink disappears from the page?
That's a
So
great
just
question. Sarah. Can
Just
you-
give them a blank page?
So that is why that is a great question. That's why we can't make vegetable-based ink compulsory for a lot of industries, especially which like publishing books, lawyers, and that's why we want to target specific industries, just like credit cards or like Amazon receipts, as Devan said. So this solution of vegetable-based ink specifically is definitely targeted to specific industries, because we do want to make the production more sustainable, but obviously we can't make the entire production sustainable.
So do I need two different printers? One for documents I want to keep and one's for documents that can vanish?
No, so sorry, you can go ahead.
So the consumer would have both the traditional ink option for longer lasting documents and a vegetable ink option. It's also noteworthy when talking about credit card receipts, people usually only would need a receipt, as most receipts do not need to be entered into a court of law. People only need the receipts for the amount of the return period, which is on average 30 to 45 days, which is well below the time it takes about 2 months for the vegetable ink to wear off.
But also they might need it for tax returns.
Yes, and they can use an HP scanner to scan the tax return.
Yeah, but I think one of the biggest target regions is, I mean, as you said, as a lawyer, you're giving your perspective. So I would like to give my perspective as a student. A lot of the times as students, we print out readings and we read them for the class the next day, but we never look at them after that. They stay on top of our desk, but trust me, you take a vote for 10 students and literally all 10 of them will tell you they do not look at the readings. Maybe they take some notes in the class next day, but that's it. So specifically for the education industry, which is such a big industry, if we market this vegetable ink, it will save millions and millions of like paper waste and energy waste through the paper production.
Can I say something here? As someone who's been, a grad student and PhD student recently, you're right. We're just printing out a lot of papers, but this is actually changing to like my students whom I'm teaching, my undergrad students, and me myself in the past, even in the last like 5-6 years, actually we've been reading everything from the computer. Like it's very much rare now to print, and even our textbooks, like class textbooks in the classes that I'm teaching, like books are ebooks. So like pretty much a lot of things are going digital in the education as well. Like yes, it's huge for printing, but even in education now, pretty much everything is, even the textbooks are going digital. So it might not be as huge as it used to be for printing anymore. It might be something you might, want to keep in mind or take into account while making your decisions.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Sorry to cut anyone off. Just want to
No, I'm done.
We've actually thought about that too. And, to your point, it is moving digital, but different people have different learning strategies and different learning outcomes. Like personally, I like to read from a physical textbook, and like being in quarantine, I have a lot of my video lectures that are online, right? So I spend a lot of time on my screen. So whenever I can spend time off the screen, I would like to do that. So just for the benefit of all our eyes, a lot of us want to be able to like read things on a physical paper because that's proven to be a lot better for your eyes. So therefore, I think the more digital we go, the more primitive we go. It's like, it's always going to be a balance, irrespective of how much we progress.
I totally agree with that. This is a great point. Yes, we all kind of turn to hard copy books too. But here's the thing: you might still, before making your investment, making such a big decision for the company, you might want to at least do a study, for example, with the if you're gonna market to the education, to the universities, to colleges, to schools, and all that, or to people in the education setting, you might want to do a study with students, with faculty, with everyone, to see like a research study, a market research or something like that, to see if what you said applies to everyone. Because you're just talking from your own standpoint. You're like, oh, I like now going to the hard copy stuff, but that might not be the case for everyone, and you are selling to the rest. So you might want to do a market research or a study to kind of gauge, to kind of get a sense of if others really think that way and they still prefer hard copy printed stuff as well. So that might help you in your decisions.
So I'm going to plan to send you your paycheck for consulting services and hope that you pick it up within 2 months or else it'll disappear. Is that okay?
I think it would be. I think most banks have our bank at least has a 2-month checking limit, so we would certainly cash it before then.
And also it doesn't like disappear as in you can't see it after 2 months. It will like if you wait like 5 years, you can't see it. But basically like in a couple of months, it would just like start fading away. You can see the ink getting lighter and lighter.
Can you use the ink for tattoos?
That would be interesting.
Okay, we can stop with the questions now, and we can everybody take a deep breath, assuming it's safe to do it. I just want to say how proud I am of you. What an amazing job you've done given the circumstances that we're all in. Congratulations. Very well done. Sina?
Yes, I would like to say the same. I really liked it a lot, and how you know, how you guys broke down all the you know, ethical, especially the ethical aspects, business and legal aspects, and you explained all the with the amounts, with the, you know, numbers. I'm a very quantitative person, and numbers always help, you know. So with the numbers and everything, that amount of good of the solutions, and also, you know, previously you explained the amount of harm that the current practices cause. I really liked how you explained everything very well and supported, and your solutions are great, and you did a phenomenal job. I really liked it. Congratulations. So it was great.
How was it working together remotely?
It was really interesting, you know. Yeah, as Mike pointed out earlier, you know, different time zones. It was always interesting to like adjust to different sleeping schedules, and you know, we're still doing our classes, so you know, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, but I just love working with this team. You know, they were all like really helpful at all points. Everyone would always like, you know, jump forward and be like, yeah, I want to do this. Like, I want to take on this challenge. So it was a great like, you know, learning experience working with these people. And yeah, I'm proud of this team. This is awesome.
And we're proud of you.
Go ahead.
No, I just said we're proud of you too.
Yeah. Did you actually know each other before this?
Yeah, Grinnell. I mean, okay, go ahead.
Don't tell us where you go to school. We're not supposed to know.
Not really. We were not like close friends before this, nor enemies, but just.
Good. Well, the good news is nobody has to catch a flight home. Thank you very much for a really good job.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Stay safe.
Yeah, we actually have a question. Like, so do you have any like specific feedback or any like, you know, drawback or limitations you can think of apart from like the questions that you asked us? You know, like any kind of feedback?
Well, one of the thoughts that I had as you were doing your presentation was the agricultural industries, I'll call them plural, the agricultural industries have their own set of environmental challenges. And it's not clear to me that one outweighs the other. I know the oil and gas industry has been regulated for a lot longer, and they may have significant safeguards already in place, which agriculture does not. And if we increase agriculture, what happens to the runoff? What happens to all the pesticides that we have to use? So how do the environmental concerns of the two industries, oil and gas versus agriculture, play against each other?
Can you all hear me now?
Sure.
Oh, sorry. I apologize for the problems that I had. This is the first time I'm able to come off mute. I agree. You all did a terrific job. I would have two pieces of advice. One is to just always consider who your audience is, considering that I'm a member of the HP Board of Directors. when I was hearing about our deceptive advertising practices and unfair labor practices. That felt a little bit aggressive. So that's one thing to keep in mind about, you know, who's your audience when you're putting this together. Also, if I had been able to come off mute, I was going to ask a question about the legal dimension, and this is just another thing to keep in mind for your presentations. You touched on some legal issues, including the unfair labor practices, and the presentation mentioned that the solution was going to address that legal issue, but didn't say anything about how. So my question would have been, I know we're out of time now, but I was going to ask a question about how would it address that?
Is that Tiffany?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Good.